starting, and it looks like it's there.
Cool. So hello everyone. My name's Sue Bays, and I'm based in the UK. And the session today is taking the fear out of Tabular Editor. Please ask questions in the chat. I respond much better if you ask questions, and you'll get more out of me. And like Kevin said, there is no such thing as a stupid question. And quite often, some of the things we ask we've forgotten about anyway. So there really is no such thing. And I like to be asked questions. I like to talk, as anyone that knows me knows. So who am I? This is me. I'm a keen runner. That's my LinkedIn address. So feel free to connect with me. I like community is a hugely important part of my life. I work as an independent Power BI developer, so I have my own business. And because of that, time is really important to me. How I spend my time is critical. It's a finite item, and we only have so much of it. And if I have to bill for it, then I need to be efficient and I need to be quick. I am not employed by Tabular Editor at all. I pay for my licenses, so I'm not here selling for them, and I won't get any benefits. Although I think I should probably ask them, but I'm not employed by them, so there's no financial benefit to me. And if you're interested, that's my website if you want to have a look or connect. I also run a meetup group in Devon and Cornwall in the UK, which, like your user group, is virtual. We meet every Tuesday at 6 p.m. at this time, your time, or every Tuesday, and we've got some amazing speakers lined up. And we're always on the lookout for new speakers and also for people that are new to speaking. So if you want to have a go at speaking and you haven't spoken before, please do reach out to me, because I'm very happy to support you. And for our new speakers, I meet with them and we have an hour where I'll run through the session and listen and give advice. So there is a supportive network there to help you, because we all have to start somewhere. So if you are interested in speaking, then please do reach out to me. So the session today is going to talk about what it actually is, how much it costs, who uses it, why do you use it, and how do you start? And it will be very interactive. So if you bear with me, I will spend literally 2 minutes going through what it is in a nutshell. So it's a Windows desktop application in the same way as you, Anthony, saying yes. He was one of the new speakers, as was Katrina in the chat as well. It's a Windows desktop application, so you can download it from the internet. I'll just show you that, and all of the links that I'm showing you here, I have on a slide that you'll be able to. I've got it in a GitHub repository so that you'll be able to have all of these slides. So you can connect to it, and basically it's a Windows desktop application. There are two, Tabular Editor 2 and Tabular Editor 3. Tabular Editor 2 is completely free, and Tabular Editor 3 you do pay for. It's $10 a month for the basic desktop application. What's the difference? So the main difference, if I just show you the two differences. So Donald's saying he uses Tabular Editor 2 but not 3. You can see here, and you'll understand what all these are. You cheap. You'll understand. I wouldn't say that, Donald. You can understand what all these things are once I go through them, but you can see there's also lots and lots of differences with what you can do with Tabular Editor 3. Tabular Editor 2 will always be free, and Daniel, that was the author of Tabular Editor, has committed to keeping it free. So what can you do with Tabular Editor? You can edit data models that are based in Fabric, Power BI Premium, Power BI Desktop, Azure Analysis Services, and SQL Server. And why do I use it? It saves me time and it makes better data models. It helps you understand. It's a massive, massive program, and there is absolutely no way I could do it justice in 50 minutes. So I focus on the area that I primarily use it, which is in Power BI Desktop. So that's what this session will be about. These are the prices for Tabular Editor 3, and I use the desktop license. For that, you get 2 licenses, so I tend to use it on my desktop and on my laptop. So who uses Tabular Editor? So you can use it as a Power BI desktop analyst, someone like me, as an external tool where I've got Power BI working in the background and I attached using Tabular Editor, and I'll show you that. A support engineer may use it where they can dial in and actually connect using the oh, word's gone straight out of my head. Using the different connectors so that they can actually remotely connect. So they don't see the report; they actually see the semantic models. You can connect as a data model developer, or you can use it for source control. So there are different ways that you can use it. And the bit that I'm going to focus on at the moment is the desktop analyst, the external data tool. How does it make you? So we say exactly the same thing. You know, I say it's great. So why is it great? What it does is it allows you to automate tasks and enhance productivity. So we can do things like scripting in it. We can use DAX formatting. It also helps you optimize your data model. So within Tabular Editor 3, we've got the Vertipack engine. I can't remember if it's in Tabular Editor 2, but I can check. It helps you write DAX because it's got a DAX telesense. It helps make DAX easier, definitely. And also there are advanced modeling features, which I probably won't have a chance to show you, but you can use things like you can create perspectives and translations, and you can have calculation groups. So it really gives you a really nice tool to support you with your Power BI development. That's my talking over. So what I will do now is I'll focus on actually going straight into the demonstrations. So keep your fingers crossed for me that my demo gods are in my favour. Hopefully they should be. I've been very kind to them. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a really, really keen runner. I really enjoy running. And this is my Garmin report that I've pulled down and I use from my Garmin data. So you can see it's a normal, straightforward Power BI report. And this is the report in Power BI Desktop. So you can see it's my normal report, just pointing out Florence Marathon, 26 miles, 232 minutes, 3 hours 52. Just saying, just letting you know, throwing it out there. But they both do different things, Katrina. So I use both Tabular Editor and DAX Studio. So I use them for different things really. But hopefully by the end of the session you'll be able to see some of the reasons for Tabular Editor.
Perfect. Thanks.
So on here, you can see these are my basic tables, which is connected with, yeah, Rob Colley, I like it, filtering down, connected with a date table. So that's the basic data model. It's really quite straightforward and then feeds into my report. And you can see I've got most of my key measures there. And if I just open my summarized, you can see I've got just a couple of different measures there. Now, Tabular Editor I've downloaded it and it sits on my desktop. So when I open Tabular Editor, and it always opens in the other screen, here we go. You'll see Tabular Editor is here. So I've just opened it and I use Tabular Editor 3. So I should have Zoom it. Yep, Zoom it's loaded up. So what I'm going to focus on today is the expression editor, the Tom Explorer here, and properties. So to open, you can see when you click on File, you can open your different types of Power BI models, whether you're connecting from Power BI service or analysis services or desktop. There are different ways to open them. From this one, I open and I click on this button here, And that button then pulls up this window here. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm connecting to a local instance, and you can see there it's got my local host, my Garmin report, which is sat here. So when I click on Garmin, it's useful to note as well, we've got some different options here on how to read and write, and you can set a status bar as well. So if you were connecting as a data modeler, you might want to just read the reports to actually try and understand what's happening, so you're not writing back. The difference between this and DAX Studio is you can write back with Tabular Editor and you can make changes. And so you can read and write. And this is what I tend to do. I always have a copy of my reports anyway, but I read and write. This status bar is quite useful because if you're comparing different reports, you can actually decide which one you might have a red for your live, or you could have another one for your copy. I don't open it from the external tools menu, Jack, because it's continually being updated. So I tend to just download it and keep it on my, as I've got it pinned to my taskbar. So I do it that way when I open Tabular Editor, because it's updated sort of almost as frequently as so you can see the status bar has changed as Power BI. So I just have it literally sat next to Power BI on my taskbar. So on here, you can see the first thing that you do when you open up Tabular Editor and you connect here, you can see that I've got all of the tables are coming in from the model. So I've got my different tables that are here. What I'm going to go through with you using this model is I'm going to show you some of my features that I particularly like using. So the ones that I particularly, and I'm putting this up to just to make sure that I keep to track. So I'm going to show you these different features to make sure that I stay on track. So when we start looking at Tabular Editor, it looks a bit daunting when you first start to look at it because there are all these different windows. If you're used to something like R, this reminds me very much like R Studio. So we've got different windows that we can use. And the great thing is, as you can see me, you can move things around. You can click on different windows to see different things, and you can set default windows. So depending upon what you're going to do in Tabular Editor, you can change the windows and the layout to how you want it to look. So if you're going to build measures, it might be that you have a different window for a different thing. So within measures, I might have I might have dependencies, etc., set up. If I want to use a classic layout, it will come in a classic layout. And I tend to just start off with the default layout, which means I've got my expression editor. So if I click on a measure here, you'll see the measure comes up in the expression editor. So we have this up here, which is our file, how we open our reports. And there's no real need to go into these straight away if you don't need to. But the one that I always click on to open from Power BI Desktop is this one. Then when I open it up, and if I move into my Tom Explorer, and Tom stands for Tabular Object Model, it's interactive. So up here, you can see there's all the different ways that you can actually use the Tom Explorer. So we can click on data sources. There aren't any data sources in these because it's actually stored in the Power BI desktop view. But if we had perspectives, they would be stored here. This is where we can see our relationships, where our relationships are all stored. If you were setting up row level security, it would be here. These are all, this is the shared expressions, which is showing us all of our M code. So you can see here, there's our M code. And we've got, so you can see our M code, and you can change the M code, but it's not a supported feature at the moment, but you can change and turn the supported features off by clicking on Preferences, and you can see here you've got the Allow Unsupported Modeling. So with unsupported modeling, you can add calculated tables and calculated columns, and you can do other things that generally work, but it's not supported by Microsoft. So it's not recommended you turn those on and to play with. You always need to have a backup copy of your Power BI report. Then we have our tables, and you can see here, these are the tables that I use within our model. So when we start looking at our tables, the one thing I really like is, and it's quite straightforward, is if you right click on the table, you'll find that the model is oh, I don't know, Eamon. I think exactly. You find everything because it's linked to the metadata, so you actually find everything. I've been doing the course and I find even more that I didn't even realize that there was there. So when you click on the summarized activities, these actual pop-ups are responsive to whatever object you click on in the model. So when I click on summarized activities, a really straightforward thing is preview data. And what you're able to do is you can have several of your tables and you can place them wherever you want. So if you've got 3 or 4 different screens, you can just actually drag and drop and put I've moved my summarized tables over to my other screen. So you can just pop them wherever you want to pop them. So it's just, I find it really useful to have my different tables that I can see at any point in time. And within the tables, if, for example, I wanted to focus on running, I can click here on the sport type and I can filter those tables. So there's a little filter button. And so if I click here, I can click on running, and it's showing me at the bottom how many rows there are, what the filter is. So it's straight away, it's giving me a chance to validate my DAX queries just by using a filter. And I can take the filter off, I can clear the filter. I can use text filters. So I've got all of the different filters that I've got here is blank, contains. So it's a way that you can actually check your measures, but you can also really get a good idea of the data within your tables. You can sort, and it's responsive depending upon whether it's a numeric filter or whether it's a text filter. So you have all of these different abilities to be able to filter and store your tables. The other thing that you can do is you can write DAX code within here. So if, for example, I wanted to write a measure, I can right click and I can create a measure. So you can see here, Alt I. What you can also do is, sorry, Alt and 1. You can press Alt and 1, so you can use a shortcut which makes it quicker to create a measure. So here you can see the new measure has come up. And I don't know about you, but pretty much all the time I'm writing count rows. So here I've got the name of the new measure, so we'll do count. I'll click in it now. So I'm going to put in hashtag count. Oops. Where's my C not working? Count rows. And so as I click on here, you can see the count rows, but at the bottom here, you can see the properties has changed. So the properties again is responsive to everything that I do and I touch within the tabular model. So I've got my count rows here, and it's going to ask for a description, display folder, format, string. The name is there, so I can change the name there. And if I go up to the expression editor here, this is where I can write my DAX expression. So you can see expression editor there. So as I start to write, it's got a telesense. So it's helping me write my DAX every time, and anything that helps with DAX is always quite useful for me. So if I press Tab, it then again is showing me what I need to write within here. And I didn't realize I didn't have to put the table in, but because I'm in the table, I like to be specific about what I'm doing. So I'm scrolling down, I've just put SU. So again, it's filtering that table. So if you press Tab, and up here, I can press Accept. Now you've got this up here. You've made structural model metadata which have not been synchronized. You have to, if you want to start using the measure, you have to use Control-Alt-S to synchronize, or you can press this button because you need to refresh the model to show or refresh the data into this particular measure. So we have our count rows, and so what I'm doing is I'm counting the rows of the summarized activities. I know I've got 289, so I want to make sure that it's working. We know it will be because it's a basic one, but there's this little option here, which I really like, pivot grid. So I can click on pivot grid, and within pivot grid, I can pull the count rows in there. So I know that my measure is working perfectly. It's a bit like when you use Analyze with Excel, the filter context isn't there. It's showing it's 289, which matches my table. So what I might want to do is I might want to say, well, actually, let's have a look and see of those, how many were running. So I can press close. I can see it should be 164. So I've got my measure there, and I might want to create another measure. So I might call this running. Running. And again, it's coming up here. So in the expression editor, we can use calculate, or we can use our no calculate, whichever we decide that we want to use. So I'm going to use my count rows, and I am going to do my summarized activities. So I want summarized activities, and you might be like me and think, oh, what was it I was filtering again? So if I go back to summarized activities, it's sport type and it's running. So I can then click back. So I know it's summarized activities and it's sport type, which is there. So sport type equals, oh, that's strange, equals running. And you can see as you start writing, if it's not correct, then my speech marks aren't working. So it can't find the table running. Why is it not my speech marks not working? I've got a keyboard error. But if you then type in the speech marks, then what it's able to do, it's able to check and make sure that it's working. I think I've got a keyboard. Yeah, I know it's not speech marks. My keyboard's not working properly.
I think a lot of us would call them like double quotes, single quotes, but
Oh,
speech
do you?
marks is yeah,
Is
speech
that a
marks is
British
nicer.
thing? Yeah.
That's what Amin's comment was. I think over here in the US, we typically use single or double quotes as a statement, but I like
Ah,
speech marks.
you like speech marks. Ah,
I
well,
might
it would.
adopt it.
Yeah. Have you know? Yeah, speech marks. It would be even better if my keyboard was working, but my keyboard's not allowing me to put a speech mark in. So I don't know why that's not working. You know, when you maybe quit. Oh, yeah, that might work. Do you reckon that's what it is? Zoom it. How do I quit Zoom it?
Usually,
Yeah, it's definitely not working.
it'll show up under your
Yeah. Anyway, I will carry on, but you.
under your task, what's it called when you hit that drop down off your taskbar. If you got
Yeah.
Zoom it running, you could
Oh,
see
yeah.
it. But
I wonder if that's what it is.
I haven't had Zoom it do that to me before.
No. No, we're getting to.
Do you use a mechanical keyboard?
Yeah, it's no, just a normal one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because sometimes that could be an issue for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to save it and see if it'll.
Sue, can you try just type something into Word? Because sometimes I've had on a keyboard where keys will swap over.
Yeah. It's just. No. So I think it's. Anyway, I will continue and bear with me. So
is it a USB keyboard, I assume?
No, hardwired. I like having it hardwired, so I don't mess around with it.
Yeah, because normally if you like can unplug it and then plug it back in, sometimes it resets it.
Oh gosh, do you want me to do that with
Can you send me a flight ticket and I'll come over and help?
You don't want to come over here. The weather's awful.
It was actually on my agenda for some of my holiday travels, but I'm not sure I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
We're going to Belgium, so that's going to be cold enough. So.
Oh, are you going to Belgium?
Yeah, my brother lives there.
Ah, nice. It's not letting me do it. So I'm reluctant to pull it all out because it's Alt and 0034. No.
That did it. It showed up.
Oh, did it? Ah, Paul, you are a genius. Thank you.
But now, okay. Thought maybe nothing else was wrong. It was typing.
Yeah. There we go. So, oh, thank you. I'll have to remember doing that. So, isn't it great, power of community? So we're counting the rows. We've got summarized activities as sport type. I knew I'd get you all talking to me somehow. So on here, it's giving me an error. And you think, why are you giving me an error? Oh, dope. And then, oh no, my keyboard's really gone wrong. No, it's not giving me the brackets. Oh. Do you want to chat amongst yourself while I quickly unplug my keyboard and try and plug it in again? I'll just turn my camera and mic off a moment.
Yeah, you go ahead and do what you need to do. So we'll kind of, anybody else have any big trip, any plans for the holiday time frame, or just everybody getting downtime?
I'm just going to Michigan is all I'm doing. Not Detroit, but Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids is nice.
Yeah, it's done nicely. It's, kind of yuppified, or, they've got businesses moving there. Hey, I've been playing with that new query view pane, whatever it is in Power BI Desktop. It is really neat. I don't know if you've gotten a chance. That blog post that Zoe put out the other day it's pretty long, but it's pretty extensive. So
yeah, we're gonna go over it on Fabric Fridays tomorrow.
Oh, are you? Okay, I'll look forward to
What
that.
tool was that again?
So in Power BI Desktop, there's a new feature called DAX queries, where you can write and say, yeah, DAX query view. And so on Fabric Friday that Chris Wagner and I do, the last couple weeks we've kind of talked about it, but I had some technical difficulties myself, and we couldn't demo it. So I'm going to demo it tomorrow.
I just put the link in the chat. That's Zoe's thing, and that's pretty detailed.
Yeah, she did a really good one. So.
Oh yeah, SQL BI did an unboxing of that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
They had a good, they had a good thing as well. So you're seeing a lot more.
Patrick did a video today as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I got to go through his as well. But yeah, join us on. I just put the link to the YouTube Fabric Friday. We do it at 7:30 Eastern time, right? You could see me have my own technical difficulties too.
Oh, thank you. Great.
Right, I've tried unplugging it and it didn't work. So I now have another keyboard that I'm going to try. which I'd forgotten I had, but you seem to have drawers full of different things.
And you said you killed the zoom in instance?
No, I didn't actually. Because this keyboard isn't working either.
Yeah, I would see if you can right click and bring up the task manager and find the zoom in and end it.
Do you think that's what it is? Do you? It's a different keyboard,
Well,
so it shouldn't be zoom it. Bring it over.
So yeah, while she's doing that, Dean just put an interesting question out there about any tips on overcoming objections to using Tabular Editor since it removes the, oops, somebody put something big out there.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You're all right. Since it removes the ability to download the PBIX file. So what you're talking about is when you use Tabular Editor 3 and you connect directly to the service using the XMLA endpoint. When you make a change, then you can no longer download it. But there is a new way to kind of get around that. And because if you're using Tabular Editor 3, the XMLA endpoint, then you're using something that is a premium capacity. So my recommended approach is connect that workspace to Git, and then all of your changes will be saved to Git, and then you're automatically downloading it by checking out your Git repository to your local machine.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. That's helpful.
So I've come out of Zoom it, just opened it up again. Oh, there we go.
All right,
so I've come,
back at it.
Back at it. So I've come out of Zoom it. So apologies. Gosh, that was a bit of a nightmare. So we have in here, well, we've all learned about speech marks anyway, so that's a positive thing. We've all got to chat to each other. So on summarized activities, if I then preview the data, you can see the data, there's 289 rows. So if I then click on running, you can see there's 164. So we can go into the pivot table and we can put our count rows measure in there. We can see there's 289, and then we can then put running in there, and it won't like it at the moment because I haven't saved it. So if I save it, it then comes through. So it has to actually, if you're going to start interrogate it, it has to fill the measure. So you need to then save it to have the measure running. So we can quite easily and nicely start to validate and have a look at our data. So that's it. So that's the expression editor there. And what you can do in this properties tab down here, you can see, oh, I can't use Zoom it now. You can see we've got our running, but there's also the format string. Hopefully you can see that okay. But what we can do is we can select all of our measures here. So I used Shift and the arrow key, and I was able to select all of these different measures, and I can then make sure they're all a whole number. So I can then see if I want to have 1,000 separators. So it's a way you can actually use batch formatting, so you can format many measures in one go. And the other thing I want to draw your attention to, which I really like up here, is this little filter button. So the filter button, you can click on it and you can ask it to find all of the measures in your particular report quite easily. So if I wanted to find anything to do with running, you can put running in, and it's a way that you can then filter and you can find things in a big model quite quickly. And you can also set your display folders, so you can change your display folder in here, and then you can move your measures to different display folders. And if you right click, you can clear the filter. So it's quite easy to actually then clear the filter, and I can clear the filter from here. And the other thing, you then end up with all of these open. This tiny little button, top right, it'll collapse all. So it's just very quickly enables you to search, to filter, and to find your different measures. So that's the expression editor and creating some DAX. But I don't know about you, but pretty much every single report or every single table that I have, I use a count rows measure. So this is where we can start actually using C# scripting. Now, I'm not a developer. I had never used C#, but there are some lovely examples of code that you can use to get some ideas about C# and what you should use and how to actually script your C# measures. So this one is from powerbi.tips, and there's a GitHub site. So you can actually see there's basic measures and there's a count rows measure. So obviously don't use things you don't understand, but it gives you a chance to actually look through and see some of the measures. So this one is basically, it says for every var table, so every table in the selected tables, create a new measure. So table.add measure, number of rows in, and then it counts the rows. So I know, I'm pretty confident that this will work. I know powerbi.tips, I know Mike, so he's not going to put anything in that doesn't work. And also I understand a little bit enough to understand what's happening. So I use Control V and then I copy it in to my C# script. Now, this is based on for beginners. When I first started using Power BI, I didn't realize there was an M language and a DAX language, and I couldn't work out why my M wouldn't work in DAX and why my DAX wouldn't work in M. In Tabular Editor, there's DAX scripting and there's C# scripting. So two different things. And C# is basically like using macros on your tables, and your DAX is writing your DAX. So it's two different languages. So on here, what this is saying, for every table, then create account rows. So if we have a look at our date, you can see there's no, and let's just filter so you can actually see. So we're filtering the measure, pressing OK. So the only thing in date is show value for dates. The only other table that has got count rows is summarized activities. So if I now clear the filter, and what I want is, and on my date table and my marathon training, my sleep, and maybe my training history, I might want to actually have a count rows. So I can click on this and then I can press play. It executes the script. And this is making me worry because it normally takes about 2 seconds to do this. So it's being a little bit slow. And you can see it's put in rows and date, and it's got it rows and marathon training. And this has come up, the Control, Alt and S. And if I show you my Power BI report here, you can see in training history, there isn't a measure. But if I then press on this, synchronize the changes, so I'm writing back to my Power BI report and press save, and then open my Power BI report, you can see the rows are there. So it literally feeds back straight away into your report, rows in training history. And I've created those 4 measures in absolutely no time at all. But this might be something that I want in every single report that I use. So when I click on this, and again, you can see when I click on this, that the menu changes. On here, there's this tiny little plus button where I can save it as a macro. So when I click on this, it asks me, what do you want to save it as? So I'm going to call it count rows. rows, macro. And you can see macros are stored in your local app data. So they're actually stored on the desktop of the machine that you're working on. Daniel did share with us how you can synchronize that using, I can't remember what it was, sync folder or something, but it basically is stored on your local model and that Symlink. Thank you, Anthony. I knew I couldn't remember what it was called. So you can use Symlink and then it will connect to your local machines. So it stores your data there. It knows that it's tables, so it knows that it's selected tables. So that's what the macro context is, and you can write a tooltip if you like, and then you press OK. And then whenever you want to, so if we delete this, and you can delete things really easily, you can delete it and save it, and you can press Control Z. So if I go up to here, can't have clicked on that one. So now that's a good example. We click on macros and you can see I've got quite a lot of macros. Count rows macro. I can then run this report on endurance score. So I've got it here and press play and it puts the macro in there. So you can build macros for anything. And there's a whole, I've got a whole, well, there's the Power BI tips, but the other thing that I really like as well within macros are, I mean, it's the dates. So this macro by Tommy will change all of your dates to short dates. So you can copy this, Control C, and then you can put it into, because I don't know why they formatted it as long date, but it's really annoying. So you can then click on here and say for every selected column, change it to be a short date. So again, we can come up here and we can say, right, show me columns. So press columns, and then you could say, and if this is where naming is important, date. So it will then show me the dates. And so here I've got a date, and you can see mine are already formatted as short date, but what you can do is you can do long date if you wanted a long date. So we can do calendar date, 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 and then play. And then you see it changes all of these to a long date. So if you press short date and press, it changes them all back to a short date, and then you press save and it synchronizes it to your model, which is really handy. And you can see from here I've got things like which I really like. If you're saving your model as a golden data set, then it's really useful to have the DAX comment into the measures description folder. So if I open this one, so what this one will do is it'll scroll through your whole report and then put your description. So however you've called your DAX, it will put it into the description of your measure. So if I clear the filter here and clear that, then you can see if we click on rows in date. So this one I've put it in because they're ones I've put in. If we click on color for variants, so all of these I've done, but being what you can do is you can actually remove the description. So in the same way, I can actually say, right, for every model, in every measure in the model, change the description. You wouldn't necessarily do this, or you might do if you want to change it. So you can click on model and then run. And now any single measure that I click on, let's find a measure, that's okay. Let's click on this one. So the description's gone. And that's for all of them. So I can then click model, click on description and press play. And then any particular thing I look on, the description comes up. So if you're publishing this as a golden data set and people are using your report as a golden semantic model, it doesn't quite flow the same, but you can then, people can see how the measures are actually put together. The other thing that's really useful, oh, I haven't seen the chat. Are there any questions, Kevin, or am I? I'm good.
No,
Yeah.
Anthony made a good point of always make a backup before scripting,
Yeah,
so you don't
definitely.
corrupt it.
Yeah, definitely.
Katrina thinks it's a cool option, and Anthony again gave a little more on using the symbolic links to help out with stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let me get rid of these. I just want to show you a couple more things. So what you can do if you are, so we've got our C# scripting. We also have DAX queries, and we also have a DAX script. So let me just get rid of this so we can come back to it. So on the model, and you can do this on anything, if you right click, you can click script DAX, and it shows you all of the DAX that is within your model. So you can just by one button, you can actually click and see all of the measures that's in your DAX. So that's really good for documentation. And you can then, if you've got different measures, you can actually, if you're trying to work through things, so we've got our previous month to date, I'm just going to delete, put that down. So if we pull up this one, and we're maybe looking at this, then what you can do, so this is my activities, previous month to date, and if I want to understand how it's built or what actually is feeding into this previous month to date, there's a few things that I can do. So I can click on the activities previous month to date, and it comes up here in the expression editor. Now, what you can do is you can right click, and you can show dependencies. And I like this, I really quite like this. It's come up on a different thing here. And so that shows me what objects depend upon this. So if you are trying to clean up a model, then you can actually see what models feed into it, and you can open it up. And then you can also see which objects this model depends upon. And for objects are basically things within your data, your semantic model. So your columns or your measures, anything like that. So it's telling you what it depends on, or objects on which this depends. And sometimes you might just be hovering over something. No worries, Eamon, nice to meet you. What you can do, instead of actually having it here, what you might want is you might want to just peek into the definition, and it'll show you right underneath it what the different measures are that are feeding into this report. So you can peek into it to see what's actually happening. I'm conscious I've got about 5 minutes left, so let me just have a quick peek to make sure and see what else I wanted to show you before I go through DAX queries. Oh, best practice analyzer. Let me just show you that. So that gives you just an insight into how you can use the Tom Explorer to filter, how you can use it to really work through your model and see what's there and to search. We've looked at previewing data. So yeah, really good for getting rid of objects not being used. And now it will also show you if you've got a variable that isn't utilized, it gives you a warning sign to say this variable, you've created this variable in your DAX measure, but it's not being used. Do you still want it? So it really helps you try to improve your model. So we've got all of these different things happening. The other thing I want to show you is this best practice analyzer, which is absolutely brilliant. So the best practice analyzer, and it's really easy to pull it in, is if you click on this button up here, it'll ask you for your best practice analyzer, which is a set of rules that have been developed by some of the experts to explain what a best practice should look like in Power BI. And let me pull the over. So it's written by, I think Tabular Editor did theirs, and then Michael Kowalski created, there's a host for the best practice analyzer. It was developed with Daniel. So the rules basically are just basic things to help us improve our modeling. So, use divide, avoid using if error, reference columns, measures should be unqualified, error prevention, So data columns should have a source column, calculated columns must have an expression, you know, how to mark your primary keys, hide your foreign keys, hide the fact table keys. So there are these certain things that some are better for usability, whereas actually some have really significant performance implications. And the easiest way to do it is you basically say you can add, so you click on add, and you can create a rule from a URL. So the URL I've got linked in my description, and you pop the URL into there, and you then say, and it's in the GitHub here, you just say add and use these rules. Then once you've used these rules, so for an example, one might be do not summarize numeric columns. So these are things like if you've got a date column or you've got a numbers column and it always comes in with summary in it, and you don't necessarily want it summarized. So what you can do is you can click here, and if it's a really simple fix, you can press fix and it will fix it for you. And I've left these in just to show you. At the bottom here, it shows you how many best practice issues there are. So it could be, and it gives you a severity. So relationship columns, these are, you know, this is a significant ones. They should be of the same data type, otherwise they don't work. So it enables you to see what the problem is. And if it can give you an automatic fix, it will apply the fix. But if it can't, it will take you to the object. So you can actually look at the object and see what the issue is. And it's there. So you can do not use floating data points. So it'll help you understand, you know, you shouldn't use those. That's quite, you know, a forwarding one. So you can apply the fix and you can see your best practice issues start to visible objects with no descriptions. So that one's something that's, you know, a little bit more complicated. Because well, not complicated, but basically you have to tell it what to do. It can't make that decision for you. Whole numbers should be formatted, so that's easy. Yes, they should. And so we've gone straight down to 126. So and you can set your own rules. So it gives you some suggestions, but if you think, well, actually, you know, this one, ensure tables have relationships, well, the two that don't are my measures table, so I don't want them to have a thing. So you can then tell it to ignore it. So you can set your own rules, which are really useful. And it just helps you then to go through and make sure, and it might be something that, you know, that is you hadn't thought of, like here, these are things I've been using in my demonstration, so I shouldn't have the same definition, so I can just get rid of them. But it's something, again, it's quite good because it tells you it won't apply that fix because, you know, it doesn't know. You need to make a decision as to whether you want to delete that one or this one. So if it's something that requires some human input, then it won't automatically apply that fix for you. So let me just go. Are there any questions so far? All okay?
There are none in the chat, but
Okay.
Amazing stuff. You did a great job.
Yeah.
And even coming over the technical challenges. So we got another minute. We could go, you know, a minute or two over. I'm sure some people got to get back to, since it is
I'm okay.
a work day and stuff here.
Yeah. So yeah, I like to finish on time if possible, because I know people have, you know, meetings, etc. So basically what we've covered, hopefully you've got an idea of what it is and how much it'll cost and why you would use it and who uses it, and hopefully it would give you the ability to have a quick start. If you haven't used it before, you can download Tabular Editor 2 and use it like Donald does for completely free. If you want to try Tabular Editor 3, then you have, I think it's a 30-day trial, so you can have a trial. Last thing, there is a fabulous completely free training site, that Kurt has put together. It's really, really good. It's intensive, very intensive. I'm only still about halfway through it. So it's, you know, it's a phenomenally important tool. If you want to connect with me, you can connect using the little picture thing, and connect to me on LinkedIn. And the resources for the session are in my GitHub. So on there are all of the links that that are there. So yeah, it's a really, really good training course from Kurt, but it's a phenomenal tool. And I find that I pay for it, but it's because it saves me so much time. These are some of the useful resources that you can actually have a look. And it will be in the GitHub with a copy of the presentation. And I think that's me done. Oh,
Wonderful.
7:01.
Wonderful. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Brilliant. Thank you, Arta. I do apologize for the, do you reckon it resume it then?